Good afternoon and welcome to the rest of the afternoon. And the first part of it is with the ATCO Blue Flame Kitchen. And today we're cooking with Chef Grant. Welcome, Chef.
Thank you very much. I guess I'll take it from here.
Yes.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our rendition of Garlic Fest this year. Just like everything else, a little bit different. We're going to do this virtually, but just imagine I'm standing in front of you at our booth we normally have up at the Garden Center there, like we did last year. If you recognize me, we were up there. And what we would do this year is take a recipe that we actually cooked with last year, which I think surprised everybody. We had lots of different stuff going on up there. A lot of things people didn't think we could make with garlic. And one that really stumped everyone was our roasted garlic and dark chocolate truffles. And everyone was like, whoa, how does that happen? How did you make that happen? And today, I'm fortunate enough, I can actually show you how to do it. And it's so super easy. So we're going to do a little question and answer after we do the demo. The demo is really straightforward. There's a recipe available for you as well. And I've got all of our wonderful ingredients here and easy to cook with. And the really nice thing about it too is all this garlic you see here in front of me and the garlic I'm going to cook with, we actually brew this right here at the ATCO Blue Flame Kitchen here at ATCO Park. So it's super special. It's wonderful garlic. I actually peeled it all myself and did it all. I've got some, well, we call it elephant garlic, but maybe it could be a bit more elephant-sized, baby elephant garlic, and I got some Russian red garlic as well. And garlic, I know we all think of that pungent, kind of spicy, aromatic flavor that, you know, we're just not used to having it in desserts per se. But we can definitely do that, and there's just ways we're going to do that. And what we're going to do is take advantage of the natural sugars within the garlic, and we need to kind of wake them up and bring them to the forefront. And the easiest way we're going to do that is our old chef's friend here. I've got some melted butter. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. That's in the recipe as well. So that's about a half a cup. And we can roast this in the oven. If we're doing a small amount like this, and it's literally the same amount that we're going to have in the recipe, is we can actually cook this on our stovetop. So we can either put this in the oven or we can cook this on our stovetop. And we're just going to really just start to toast it a little bit. And I think that's the easiest way to say it, is we're going to toast it. And we want to do a couple things. We want to toast that garlic. We're going to leave it whole. So when we peeled it, I didn't press it down or smush it. I really just peeled it with a knife very carefully to leave it whole so the outside of the clove is intact. That way it browns evenly and gets that nice deep caramel colors. And if I'm starting to talk like or speak about chocolate, caramel flavors, things like that, all of a sudden it's going to start to make a little bit more sense. And I'm going to show you why. So I'm just going to swirl my garlic around here. And because we are doing this on the magic of television day, I'm not going to make you wait 20 minutes, half an hour for this to happen. But as we do this, the outside of the garlic is going to become very golden, and it's going to become very delicious and caramelly. And those really hard flavors of garlic are going to become softened, and those sugars are going to caramelize. The reason why I'm cooking this in butter, one, I need the butter fat to help smooth out our chocolate and make our truffle a bit more supple and luxurious. But there's also little milk solids in there. And milk solids, we've all had milk chocolate. Those milk solids are going to caramelize and become nutty. And they're going to kind of play second fiddle to that garlic flavor. And they're going to help kind of bolster up those little garlicky caramel notes. And I just have a pan going here, and I've got this on super low heat. If you wish, you could take a pan just like I've got here, and the handle's completely fine to go in the oven. Put that in the oven, and it will do the same thing. But for this small amount, I'm just going to do it on the stove. So your choice, you can do it either way. I've got the instructions there for the oven, but the stove top works just as well. Now, because I did do a few of these earlier, I actually did 2 different kinds. Now, I like really dark chocolate. A lot of people don't. I eat that 100% stuff. I love it. I love those bitter flavors. I love that. And that kind of lends itself. I really roasted this garlic. I don't know, I'm gonna try to make sure you guys can see that on there. And I roasted this off, and it's merely seconds away from being burnt. If I left it a bit longer, it would be black, but the flavors are more intense, and it almost made the outside skins of the garlic, or the outside surface area, a little bit more crunchy. And what I noticed when I mixed that with my chocolate, it almost made like these little garlic caramel chunks in there. It's really cool. And when you eat it, you get this garlic flavor, but you don't get that pungent garlic aftertaste. You get this really soft, gentle flavor. It's really cool. Now that's kind of taken that one a little bit far, maybe an acquired taste, but the smell, oh, the brown butter, all those flavors in there, wonderful. And you can use this for other recipes, no problem. But this one I kind of like for maybe more of a robust, super, super dark chocolate. I think they would really complement each other. But for the recipe and how we're going to make it normally, I cooked it a bit less. And just like I'm cooking it here on my stove, I'm just going to kind of let it just kind of wisp around the pan. Wouldn't we all like to be a garlic clove right now? Big garlic cloves and that nice butter. And I just have it kind of like this. I'm just looking at my monitor to see here. This is more of a nutty golden brown. And in French, we kind of call this noisette, which is more like a hazelnut flavor, or a hazelnut nuttiness. And when you smell roasted hazelnuts, that's what you're going to smell here. Again, hazelnuts and chocolate. Instead of hazelnuts, our garlic is going in here. And that's kind of the trick. So I've got all those milk solids that are just melted, and they're very, very lightly browned, and the garlic's lightly browned and completely softened. And you can just let that sit in the warm butter, completely fine. We could use that in other recipes as well. But that's what we're going to use today. So I'm going to get that garlic to here, and that is 1 cup of whole peeled garlic, or as much as you can. So we're as much as you can in that cup. You know, you got a couple extra ones, not going to make a big deal. So that's kind of what we got going on, and you want to get that done first. If you want to do this for one day and then come back and finish the recipe the next, completely okay to do that. And while I'm talking, the nice thing I can do as well is I can just cook this garlic down while we talk, and I can come back to it and I can show you how it's kind of transitioning and doing all that. That's the garlic part of this one. We're going to get back to that in a minute. We're going to talk about the chocolate truffle in itself. And basically all we're doing is making a ganache. So a truffle is to kind of look like those little black truffles we find in the ground. Well, not me, they don't grow in Calgary, but like people do find. And what we're going to do with those is we're going to make a round ball that kind of looks like a truffle. So I have got 3 cups of dark chocolate chips. You can use semi-sweet chips. And the reason why I'm using chocolate chips, in the professional world, we have some brand names where they come in little chips like this, a little bit bigger. What's nice about it is for all our friends at home is when we're measuring things out by volume as opposed to weight, they're all going to be the same size. So we're not going to worry about if someone cuts chocolate up or chops it up and the hands get all sticky, and some's got some big chunks, some's got it very fine. This makes it all consistent and the same size and saves you a step, which just works fine. All I would say is just buy the highest quality chocolate chips you can find. That way you get the better or more robust flavor. So I've got semi-sweet right here. You can use dark chocolate or darker chocolate, and that will work perfectly fine. I wouldn't use white chocolate in this instance because, one, it sets up a little bit differently, and also it would be very, maybe it wouldn't pair so well with the garlic as well, but it could be a good science experiment. So if anyone at home wants to try it, go for it. You could probably give it a go. So this is swirl my garlic around. As I do that, I can kind of see the edges of it. Those little brown bits are happening with the butter. It's so good. You just have to keep an eye on it because it does burn very, very easily. There's one way you can do it on the stove, which is a little bit easier to keep an eye on. So I've got my chocolate chips. I've got a small little pan going here, and I'm just going to stir this here to the front. And all we're going to do is scald some cream. So I've got some heavy cream here, aka whipping cream. And we're going to put that in here. Now, normally a ganache is 1 part cream, 2 parts chocolate. Today we're going to use 1 part cream, 3 parts chocolate, just so it's got a bit more body and it holds up a bit more. So it's really easy. Ganache, cream, and chocolate. That's all you got to do. Super, super easy. So as our garlic's going here, we've got our chocolate chips sitting here as well. Also, I've got a little bit of salt, and I like to put that in my cream, just so it helps dissolve it. Really, really easy to do. And again, if everyone's wondering, oh, salt and chocolate, that's kind of weird. Ganache likes a little bit of salt in there, and it just elevates that chocolate flavor. It's not going to taste salty, but it's certainly going to complement kind of those savory notes going on in the garlic here. And again, that's that ATCO Blue Flame gas, super quick and hot, no problem at all. So we're just going to warm that up, and that's going to melt our chocolate. I've also got some white corn syrup. If you don't have white corn syrup, you can use honey, which I'm actually substituting today. Again, just a bit of sweet, and it's also going to help with our texture and smooth it out. So if you don't have the corn syrup at home, a little bit of honey will work as well. I wouldn't put the dark corn syrup in there because it's just going to be a distracting kind of flavor. I like to just stir that up and get that and pour that right in there. That's all you have to do. Very, very easy. And then you just take a spatula and you just stir it together. And as we do that, the cream will melt the chocolate. We just stir it up. I like to do this in a glass bowl. 1, so you can see what I'm doing. And 2, it's easier to scrape down the sides. And if the chocolate ever becomes maybe a little too firm, maybe it didn't melt all the way you want, you can put it on top of a double boiler. No problem. And I'm actually going to turn my double boiler on, just because I'm going to use that hot water to help me with the scooping later on. So we're just going to stir this together. Just let it sit. And the cream will eventually melt that chocolate. Again, another good part of using the chocolate chips like this is all the chocolates in even size. So it's really, really easy to incorporate that to mix it all together. So ganache, it's used for all sorts of things. We can decorate cakes, we can whip it, we can do all sorts of things with it. We can make truffles with it. We could fill tarts with it. Ganache is kind of like the workhorse in the pastry kitchen. And it's certainly going to get a workout today with a little bit of garlic in it too. Again, coming back to my garlic here, definitely going to watch this. And again, just watch your heat. It seems a little high. Just lower it down. Really easy to do that now. So you can see my chocolate is starting to melt there. Just want to make sure you guys can see the watch me and watch my monitor at the same time. Stir that together. And we're just going to let that sit. So I'm going to take my garlic that I did earlier. I would take the one I'd like to use for the recipe again. Look at those garlic cloves. Just gorgeous. They're just so nutty and beautiful and perfect. Nutty like me almost. That's a bad joke. I get to tell lots of bad jokes. Food processor is going to be our easiest way to blend this up. And we're going to use all the butter, all those brown bits, everything's going to go in there. And we're just going to pour that into our food processor. Really try to scrape everything down. Because all those bits, that's where the flavor is. I wish we had smell-o-vision. It would be so good. The smell is unbelievable. So we're just going to get that going in here. Hard in the back of my pan. We're going to scrape that in there. And I'm just going to turn this on to puree. Really, really, really easy. So I'm just going to put this on high. And we just want this to soften up. It's not doesn't need to be perfectly smooth. The smoother it is, the more it's going to blend into our chocolate. So I'm just going to take my little spatula here, and we're just going to scrape all that stuff down. We're going to use everything we've got here. And these little food processors are handy. If you don't have one of these at home or don't feel like taking it out, you had a magic bullet or a blender, totally fine to use that in here as well. So we're just going to take this off. And I think my chocolate could use a little bit more heat. So I'm just going to put that on my fire here just to help the melting process just a little bit. And while I do that, I can put that garlic puree in there. Oh, the smell, so good. It's sweet. It's almost candy. It's wonderful. Really, really nice to work with here. All right, so that's going to go there. I'm just going to put this over here. We're just going to blend this together and melt. And I can just tell even that few extra seconds there, that warm butter that was in with that garlic is going to help melt this together. Now this is quite soft. And in part of my recipe method, what I've included here is you'd like to get this, you can leave this in this bowl or you can pour it into a shallow casserole dish. And what you want to do is you want to pop that in the refrigerator overnight because we need this to firm up. And that's going to make it a lot easier to firm up and then roll it. And also it lets those flavors kind of commingle and hang out together. They're going to get a lot more blended and the garlic's almost going to kind of mellow out even more. So we're just going to stir this together. I kind of do a double trick here where I kind of move the bowl and I move my spatula at the same time. And when this is smooth and all that chocolate's melted, and as you stir it, the chocolate's going to continue to smooth out. You're going to notice it's going to thicken up a little bit, and that's exactly what you want. So this is really, really easy to do. Congratulations, you just made your truffle base. Now you could, instead of using garlic in here, you could add different things. You could use liqueurs, you could add different flavors, and you can make lots of different truffles if you like. Just do that before you put the garlic in it. Or if you like, you can trick your party guests and you can make some really sweet ones and maybe some more normal flavors, and then throw a couple of those roasted garlic ones in there too. They'll be pleasantly surprised. It's pretty cool. And for any of you tuning in today that have watched or watching right now that were there last year with us and tried those chocolate truffles, I can still remember your reaction of you're pleasantly surprised at how good they were and how tasty they were. Okay, that's that. That's super, super easy. So I'm just going to put this aside here. And I've already got one that I made up yesterday. So what I've done is I've just taken my spoon and I like to just, we call it tempering a little bit. Not tempering the chocolate, we're changing the temperature. I like to just take this out and put this on our countertop for a little bit. And just so it warms up and it's a little bit easier to scoop. And I got enough little pieces here. If a spoon isn't working for you and you're scraping it, you're kind of going to make little portions. If you don't want that, we'll actually use a little scooper like we've got here. And guess what? I've got that hot water. And that's going to make it a little bit easier to kind of get in here and scoop. And that actually did a really, really nice job. And I've just got a tray with some parchment paper. You could use wax paper if you like. If you run into that, you could use tin foil if you really have to. You're just going to scoop it on there. Super easy. And we're just going to continue that until you use all this. Try not to eat all this as you go because it's really good. And let's just take a brief moment and look at that garlic. Look, it's changing already there. We're getting those nice kind of flavors. We're going to try to zoom in as much as we can, I know. But yeah, it's definitely changing color. We're starting to get the brown bits. And the reason why we've left these whole, and I didn't, like I said before, we didn't crush those when we peeled them. I know we all do that because it makes it a lot easier to peel them. Because we didn't want to get those jagged edges on the outside, and those often burn first. So we want this to try to color and become nutty and flavorful as evenly as possible. That way it's going to give us the best result at the end. So just kind of keep going here. One chef trick we like to do is to warm up our scooper or spoon, and then just dab it onto a towel because we really don't want to get too much water in our truffle mix here. And you can just keep doing that, working quickly. If the kids are around and they're trying to get their hands in here, I know whenever I was cooking with my mom, I would always have my hands in the bowl of chocolate. Boy, would I be surprised if I found out there was garlic in that. We didn't do that back then, that's for sure. So we're just going to keep going with that until that's all done. So that's all you have to do. I'm not going to keep doing that because I think everyone's going to get the idea. But that's kind of the first step. So then these would go into the refrigerator for a little bit, and it just helps them set up a little bit more. One trick we like to do is kind of coat them in some cocoa. So in your recipe, it says we've got some sifted cocoa. I'm just going to put a little bit here. I've got a little dish here. Again, do a couple tablespoons of cocoa at a time. You don't need to use the whole thing. If you don't need to use it all, then you can keep it for another day, but at least we won't contaminate both and have little bits of cocoa, garlicky ganache in our cocoa. Then you put it back in your canister and you're going to go make a plate of brownies or something like that. And all of a sudden you've got garlic in there too. So I'm just going to put on some gloves, and I know we're all familiar with these right now. Lots of gloves going on, face masks and all that stuff, but this is actually to make the rolling part a little bit easier. So I'm just going to pick up one here, and I like to just roll this in my hand. Okay, so back to the old Play-Doh days when we were all kids. I'm just a big kid anyway, so I remember really well. Make this round like meatball. Put that in there, but we want to work quick because this is chocolate and it's going to melt all over my hands already. Again, the gloves really help with the cleanup. And we want to work quickly so we don't melt it, but we want it to be kind of melted a little bit on the outside because that's what's going to help make our cocoa powder stick. So we're just going to roll that around. And again, you can pop these back in your fridge. And the cocoa just kind of gives you that little extra hit of chocolate at the end. And again, like I said, I like dark chocolate, so that bitter kind of cocoa really gives you that real pure, cocoa-y, dark chocolate flavor. So I am going to put these here, and you can just roll them around. They don't have to be perfect. Has anyone seen a perfect truffle out of the ground? Have you ever seen a fresh one? They come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, so don't worry about it. They don't show up round. So they're always going to have a little bit of different, their own little identity, and that's what we're going to make right here. And then the ganache part of the truffle is actually going to help let all that stick together there. There you go, that's roasted garlic truffles. It looks like a regular truffle, it's in disguise. And for any of you that were at our Garlic Fest last year, you probably remember, well, Grant, we did do a little bit differently. And you're right, we did. This works really, really well on its own, but to kind of take it to the next level, I've got a little secret weapon here, a little chef secret weapon. I've got a little bit of balsamic syrup. And that just kind of let that drizzle all the way around. It's going to stick to the parts where the cocoa powder isn't really too heavy. And that's going to go on there. And that sweetness from that vinegar is really going to condense down. And you have a little bit of sharp notes from the acid, and that works wonderfully with that. You can buy it in the store already now. Reduced balsamic vinegar, or there's different products they've got that are very similar to that. Vincoto, lots of different things. And then me, because if anyone's cooked with me before, I like my pink peppercorns. And a little bit of pink peppercorn on top. They've just been busted up. They're not actually a true peppercorn. They're actually a berry of a shrub, and then they turn them into peppercorns. Very different flavor. And I'm sure you've seen it in the store, dark chocolate and pink peppercorn, maybe a little sea salt on top. It's a nice garnish. I don't have that in my recipe, but just for a little side note for you guys, if you want to try something a little bit different, and don't those look beautiful? They're absolutely beautiful. I know you can't really see it too well there on there, but they are gorgeous. Back to our garlic here. That's done. All you do is pop them in the fridge, or keep them in the freezer if you need to keep them long, although I don't think they're going to make it that far. They'll be gone. Again, look at that garlic just coming along. Oh, beautiful. And I just want to share with you one little tip before I finish up here. For anyone at home that has to measure honey at home, and it's always such a sticky mess because it's so hard to get it out of your measuring cup, all you have to do is take a little bit of kitchen spray here, give it a couple little taps like that. You can put your honey in there, and I did this, I do it all the time, and the honey just comes straight out. You don't even have to scrape it. So easy to do. So that's just a little kitchen tip for you. That's what we like to do here at the ATCO Blue Flame Kitchen, showing lots of little kitchen tricks to make you look good while you do something like this, because we like to make it easy for you guys so you got lots of success at home and lots of fun things to do. So that is our roasted garlic dark chocolate truffle demote. It's just that easy. Back to you.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
I'm not a chef.
That's okay. You don't need to be.
All right. So the roasted garlic, are you actually leaving the skin on it to serve it separately if you want to?
They are completely peeled. There's no skin on them whatsoever. And that's a good point, because if the skin was on it, again, you could be on there, but the texture wouldn't be right. So we've completely taken them off, and the skin would probably burn in there as well. So we've taken them. Yep.
So how long exactly did the garlic cook for before it became part of the recipe?
Well, let's see here. So I've been going on here. This has been going for 10 minutes or so. I wish I had my cameraman timing me here. So I'd say 20 minutes on very, very low heat, but probably would on the stovetop. If not, then you can do about 40, 45 minutes in the oven.
Okay, so we've had a question.
Yes.
Can you do this without any dairy products? Can you substitute the butter to do the garlic and?
Sure. So if dairy things are an issue, so remember before I talked about the dairy and why we're using butter, because it's got those little milk solids in there, and they're going to help kind of get those caramel notes. Again, not the end of the world if we don't have it. Why don't we try coconut oil? Because we're going to cook this on very, very low heat. Coconut oil will be a neutral flavor and be appropriate for this as well.
Okay, so then we're using heavy cream. We're using whipped cream.
Yeah.
They're asking, what do we substitute? Is there a substitute?
I would go with any vegan milk substitute that you like to use. Just don't cook it very long because it could separate on you. So really quick, warm it up and then use that and then see how that goes. Again, you are changing the recipe. I would cut back the quantity a little bit, and that way we don't thin out our chocolate too much. Because sometimes with coconut oil, that can happen in recipes. So I would maybe just cut it back a little bit or cook with it and just add a little bit as you go.
Okay, and have you, can you transition this recipe into a baked item like brownies? Can you take those balls and bake them a bit, or does that affect the flavor?
Remember I said ganache is kind of the workhorse of the kitchen?
Yes.
This ganache, what does this remind you of?
Well, it reminds me of my attempt at cake or icing.
Well, technically, we do have the start of a cake batter here. We just don't have a leavener. We don't have flour.
Yeah.
We don't have cake here. But ganache, I said before, we could use it to ice cakes. So you could definitely use this to ice your brownies.
Okay.
Up, no problem. It's basically icing ready to go. Yeah.
Okay.
What I like to do when I'm decorating cakes is I'll actually coat a cake with this, maybe not with the garlic one, and then I will cool it just a little bit of room temperature, just an hour or so, and then I'll put that in my KitchenAid with a whisk attachment. And
Okay.
if there's heavy cream in there, it whips.
Okay.
And it's whipped and aerated, and you can actually pipe it. And that's something we call whipped ganache. We use that for cake garnishes quite often.
Okay, and this is a question from me. I didn't know we could get dark chocolate chips.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to find them. There's different varieties of semi-sweet and all that. If you've got semi-sweet, that will work just fine. You just have to look a little bit. It's not as common to find the dark ones, but you can definitely find them.
Okay, and when you say semi-sweet, it just means it doesn't have as much sugar, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I like to say easier for me to say is almost half and half. It's like not too sweet, not too bitter. Kind of
Okay.
right? Yeah.
All right. Now, when you talked about adding liqueurs and things, can you put something like red pepper into the chocolate?
Red pepper?
I've seen red pepper chocolates showing up, is what I've heard and what I'm reading here.
So they would use, so again, the easiest way to look at it, we're going to get a little bit technical here, is we're kind of controlling how much moisture it is to keep the consistency right. So if you just chopped up a red bell pepper, let's just say that, and put it in there, there's so much moisture in there that it would probably dilute things and it wouldn't mix properly. So the red pepper chocolates you're seeing now, and I'm going to say chipotle, they're going to use dried spices in there and dried peppers, and that's going to give you that flavor without putting the texture.
So a dried pepper flake is what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see all of them. If you even go to the grocery store, you can see the wall of different mint chocolates. I'm so happily surprised at how many different varieties there are.
Well, I am not happily surprised because every time I go into the chocolate store, I have to fight myself to get out of it. So
that's a problem. I know. That's okay.
And I mean, I used to be really good at walking in and just getting a little one. Now I just want to buy the whole thing.
I know.
And last year, I have to be admitting that I was probably the one that went back to your booth 3 times to try these chocolates. So are you going to courier us some?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm just, for the interest's sake. We were noticing, and we're all noticing on the front array of pots in the middle are browned garlic cloves, or
right here.
In the middle on your stove.
Right
on
here?
The middle of your stove, that one.
Yeah. So that if you remember what I'm speaking about, this is the same thing as the one I'm cooking right now. I just cook these a lot darker. And when I was speaking about that earlier, was this would pair really, really well with more robust flavors. So really dark chocolate.
Yes. So that's where you buy that bar of chocolate and chop it up.
Yeah, and this one's almost like too dark for most people's flavor palettes because they're just like, it's almost too intense. I love it. But like I said before, it's like seconds away from being burned. If you leave this on the stove and it gets like that, you don't want to burn it because then it becomes quite bitter.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, if you want to make a really rich dark chocolate flavored with garlic, you're putting in that almost burnt.
Yeah, I don't want to say the word burnt because it doesn't sound really
No, it doesn't sound good.
But if you can kind of see how dark that is there in my hand.
Yes.
Yeah, I say seconds away from being burned. Like if I've really been on it, it's almost become kind of crunchy on the outside.
Oh.
I'm just going to peel it open, and you can see the inside is still that nice garlic. It's quite soft.
It's quite soft, okay, and it has a crunchy on the outside.
Yeah, and it's almost like jam in the middle. And that's what we want because we've taken those sugars and we've really, really intensified.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody's asking, could you put coconut cream truffles with garlic?
Coconut cream truffles. So would we be using coconut milk in there, I guess?
Yes.
Instead?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth a try. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Milk, the problem with coconut milk as opposed to using, remember we talked about coconut oil to cook our garlic in?
Yes.
Coconut milk would be quite strong. So we'd have to see how well it would work well for our for someone who's the dietary restrictions of vegan or whatnot. But I don't know that those two flavors might fight each other.
They might fight with each other. Okay.
Yeah, they might.
Okay.
But you know what you could do, because now what we got going on, we got coconut, we got roasted garlic. I bet you could almost make like a really interesting maybe a little bit of Thai curry in there, maybe a little Thai curry spice or something like that. And then all of a sudden we've changed it around a little bit.
Okay.
And spicy and some other flavors going on. I might actually try to make that.
Well, that might be very interesting. You'll have to write us a review on that.
I will, yes. This is the fun part about cooking, is all these little things, these little ideas that you think, well, how are they going to work together and how am I going to make them work? And
Okay.
sometimes they come up.
Well, earlier you were talking about white corn syrup versus using honey.
Yep.
Now, are you using white corn syrup more regularly than you are the honey?
You know what, let's talk about it in the sense that sometimes we go to the grocery store and they don't have white corn syrup.
No, they sure don't. That's why I'm asking.
And I purposely did that today, and I subbed in honey just to show you that that's sometimes it happens. It happens normally to us. I went to the back to go get some white corn syrup yesterday, and I went, I don't have enough, so I'm going to use honey. So basically what we're doing is we're using a glucose. We're using a liquid sugar like that, and that's what we're going to use. So if you don't, and using mild honey is going to work just as well for that. For this application, will work just fine.
And that's kind of what holds the chocolate together, right? The chocolate.
Well, it's kind of doing that, but it's also helping the mouthfeel of it, because if I didn't have corn syrup or honey and I just said, well, I'm looking for sweet, and if I'm looking to add a little bit of sweetness to this and I just dumped in some regular granulated sugar, what's going to happen is that's going to almost be gritty. And then back to your point about holding it together, it's not so much about holding it together, it's about creating a texture. So a little bit different, but it's going to help with that as well. And it's going to help really blend together, if I may say, if that makes it a bit easier. Yeah.
All right. So if you say you're using the elephant garlic, which I know is a softer garlic, if you have, say, some of the other varieties of garlic, some of the harder garlics, have you tried it with using, say, music or any of the other ones?
Yeah, basically, so we just took whatever garlic we had growing in our garden out back, and that's what we used. So I guess the short answer is, yes, you can do it. We want to just cook this low and slow enough so they are softened. That's the name of the game. That's
the main part of it, is getting the garlic soft enough to blend
That's
in.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to cook that on high heat. And again, I'm still cooking this as we're talking. So
well, I can tell you keep stirring it and letting it go. So is your goal to get it sort of a goldy brown or a darker brown?
That's right. We want to get it a golden brown. And we all know when we cook with garlic at home, how easily it can burn. So you almost want to start this on such a low heat that it looks like it's not doing anything. And then slowly as it heats up, you'll start to see the butter kind of foaming around and bubbling around that garlic. And that's all you want to do, like low and slow. I've got this on such a low flame, I can barely see it there.
Okay. Now, have you ever used black garlic?
I have, yes. Yeah, I have used black garlic. It's fermented garlic.
Yeah, it's very good garlic. I just wonder if it's one of those ones that you could put into these chocolates, because I find it an intense flavor.
I'd be worried about how well it blends up. So I'd really make sure that it was trimmed, like you got that little heel part off of it, and make sure it's trimmed. And I would probably soak it in maybe some water first, just to kind of soften it, if that's the right, before we blend it. As long as it blended and became smooth, I think it'd be worthwhile to give it a try, for sure. Yeah.
All right, now, since we're at the Garlic Fest, technically the Garlic Fair, let's talk a little bit more about what are your favorite ways to serve garlic? And I mean, are you gonna, they're asking, do you have a garlic appetizer that you're particularly fond of besides baking garlic in the oven and putting it on bread?
Oh, I see. Well, I certainly do like doing that. I prefer to cook with garlic and blend it into pretty much most any recipe that I've got. One thing that I think would be really good, if you remember from the Garlic Fest last year that we did, remember I made a garlic jam? And again, that one was a bit kind of strange for people, but again, sugar and garlic, and I used the garlic in place of any kind of fruit. But you know what that'd be really good on is even if you took some garlic like this is quite soft, and an appetizer that'd be nice. If you had, say, a little tiny round brie, and you wrap that with tinfoil on the outside, and you put some of this garlic on top, maybe some hazelnuts or toasted walnuts on there, and you did a baked brie, I think that'd be an excellent appetizer.
So when last year I was probably I kept coming back for a bit of the garlic jam, but I never got to ask you, that garlic jam, was that a fruit-based jam or was that garlic and?
That was garlic. So that was garlic, sugar, and a little bit of salt. And then my secret ingredient in that, just to kind of set the acid without it being too pungent in acid flavor or too strong, was some white balsamic vinegar.
Oh, that's why I probably went back for it.
So what I did is when I made that, and if any of your viewers want to email you and then forward it to me, I have the recipe still. I'd be happy to email to them.
Okay, because I'm going to email you for it.
Please do. That's what we're here for. Lots of wonderful recipes. So I developed it. What I did was I started it in quite a large, heavy bottom pot, kind of like this guy right here. And I caramelized sugar. So I had a dry pan, and I just started adding sugar and stirring it with a wood spoon as it was caramelizing. No water, no anything in there. And then I hit that with the garlic cloves. So garlic cloves similar like this, but not cooked. They were raw, completely peeled, and put them in there. And the garlic instantly starts roasting in that super, super hot sugar. And the juices start coming out of it. And that kind of made a caramel. And,
yes.
and then that cooked down and became a jam. And then I added the balsamic vinegar and a bit of salt. Continued to cook that down to the right consistency. But that's kind of the trick in how I did that. And again, just to kind of work with the garlic, it was all about kind of technique and flavor balancing at that point. It was really kind of a challenge to make it work, but I think it turned out really well. We've used it in all sorts of different things here at the Blue Flame Kitchen.
Well, I wanted to say, Grant, that the thing that intrigued me about it was the color of it.
Yeah.
It was just it was really actually quite attractive, and I'm very visual because I'm a gardener.
Right.
So I really enjoyed it. It was the first thing I took off the sample tray. So I have to say it was a big hit. I was hoping you were going to actually make some and send it to us. But if our viewers, but anyway, if any of our listeners or viewers are watching this, they can send grant.perry, P-A-R-R-Y, @atco.com for the garlic jam, because
I'd be happy to forward it off. Yeah.
Because that would be great. Grant, it looks really interesting. Now, the one thing that I wanted to ask, and I know that I just see it's coming back again, is honey better than the golden syrup?
I think in this application it's fine because we're not cooking the honey per se for a long time.
Okay.
And so it's still going to work. It's still going to be working similar to the corn syrup's going to work. The difference is if you had a recipe that needed to be cooked out longer, and sometimes the honey can change, its flavor can change, and it doesn't have that, it melts away a little bit too quickly. So it's not identical, but for this application, it will work just fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I could say one's better than the other because it depends on what application you're going. Obviously, honey is, well, one, it's local. Two, it's more of a natural product. So if you're kind of gearing towards that stuff, then use the honey. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that someone else is asking is, we're always getting asked this one, sugar replacements. Do you put any kind of sugar replacement in, or?
Nope, we didn't have to do anything here at all. No, the only sugar that you saw in here was anything that was in the chocolate already and the honey. That was it. And of course, caramelizing those natural sugars in the garlic. So
yes,
people are kind of trying to get their heads wrapped around and go, garlic, like how much sugar do I need to add to compensate for that strong garlic? We're not adding sugar. We're using the sugars that are in here and caramelizing those, and that's what's making that extra sweetness.
Yeah, because the garlic is a sweet root. It is very sweet.
Right.
To me, it has that same almost sugary texture as, say, turnips, if you will, because I always find turnip have a bit of a sweetness to it. I could be wrong there, but.
And that's funny you say that, because they both like a little bit of cold, am I right in saying that
Right,
as well?
exactly, exactly.
Same kind of thing, so exactly correct, yeah. And you could caramelize parsnips just like you're doing this as well. And I've often done that as well.
Okay, from the Blue Flame Vegetable Cookbook.
Yeah. Now I gotta remember what this is in that one. That's going back some time, I think.
Well, what I wondered about was the squash soup. It had apple in it. Why did it have apple and garlic in it?
Well, apple is a natural sweetener, right? So apple and squash are kind of old friends, and they get along really well. So their flavors work really well together. So apple gives you that extra flavor. So often if you're making a squash soup and maybe your recipe calls for chicken stock or veggie stock or water, instead of adding water, add a little bit of apple juice instead. And you're going to get all that flavor in there too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought of apple juice.
That's a little chef trick, because sometimes you do cook with apple juice. Now apple juice can be quite sweet, so you have to be careful.
Okay.
But yeah, sometimes we do that as well, and that gives you a little bit of sweetness in there too.
I see. All right. Well, I also am seeing a question. The ATCO Blue Flame Kitchen has a garden that they're planting in.
We sure do. Yeah. So before we had all this COVID pandemic thing, people could come visit us and participate in all of our classes and join us for lunch in our cafe and join us for lunch and learns and all of our hands-on events and corporate events. By the way, we are still doing virtually. We're rolling those classes out virtually, just so your audience knows as well. So you're not here, but it'll look just like this. We also send meal kits as long too, available for purchase. With that, back to the garden thing. The garden thing we do have a garden here, and that's where we grew all of our garden. And we also grew, we had spaghetti squash this year as well. So these guys came out of our garden too.
Huh. So I was harvesting the garlic with Chef Darcy, and I'm wondering, have you guys decided yet on when you're going to plant the garlic outside yet?
It's been really nice out, so maybe we should get on it sooner than later. It does, so it's almost too nice out.
Yes.
Which I'm completely okay with. That's all right with me. So as soon as the weather, I think, starts to get colder, I bet, probably we're going to be after Thanksgiving at this point. How about you? When are you going to plant your garlic?
Well, we were just talking about that this morning, and we've decided to wait about 10 more days because we want a bit more cool temperature, because we've planted when it's too warm and we haven't had as big a crop. So we're going to plant when it's a bit cooler and go from there. So we'll have to see. I was quite impressed with your big garden, and I'm hoping that they're going to make some of the improvements that you're talking about with the raised garden and making more vegetables into that one raised garden, which was really interesting. So I'm hoping
the beds are raised. We've got an irrigation system in there. The thing is, it's huge. It's a big garden, and we are so busy with all of our online meals that we're selling and our virtual classes that we're going to get going. And we're so busy with that sometimes getting out to that garden, as much as it's a little bit of a reprieve from our day-to-day, it's a bit of work getting out there sometimes. But it's huge, and we've got lots of stuff. We like to grow our own herbs in there. Chef Darcy just picked strawberries today. We still have some of those going on. We had, I'm going to say, at least 2 rounds of rhubarb come out of there, maybe a third, because it just gets all this wonderful sun. You would have no idea it's actually there because we see the traffic from Pro Child Trail zipping by, but there's tons of room out there, and we grew a lot of garlic this year. So it's
well, I know you grow a lot of crops, or you could grow a lot of crops out there, because I was having quite a discussion with Chef Darcy about it and was thinking, oh my goodness. And then JP came to visit, and I was saying, boy, we could do a lot more out here.
So no, it's good. It's as anyone knows who's into gardening. I mean, I garden as well, but on a much smaller scale. You know, it's a hobby and it's a pastime. It's good for you and relaxing. But sometimes, man, to stay on top of it, I think we all know is a bit tricky. But I think we can all agree that growing garlic is probably one of the really easy ones. Just get those scapes cut off when they're ready to go. But you know, plant it and it's good. So it's a very rewarding crop. Would you say that?
Yes, it is. It's probably one of my favorite crops. Another question has come up. With the garlic, when you're cooking steak,
Yes.
the Alberta staple, right? When we're doing a good steak, do you take the garlic clove and rub it on the meat, or do you crush the garlic and put it into the meat?
Okay. There's a couple different ways to do it. So if I was, let's just start with Alberta beef in general, okay?
In general, yes.
If I was going to do a large roast, you could cut a little slot in there, just a little guy. Well, this garlic is huge. Peel the garlic, just like we've got it all peeled already. And you can actually insert that into the roast. We call it studding. You can stud it in there. You know, like we stud things with cloves or whatever.
Yes.
You can put it all in. And for a roast, something that's going to take longer, I do raw, because then it won't burn, right? We go a little more time. For high heat, like say grilling a steak, high heat, we all know what garlic likes to do. It likes to burn, right?
Yes.
I want that burnt flavor. So what I would do, take this. This is wonderful. Look, I just hit those truffles.
Yes.
This is wonderful. This is soft and supple and buttery. Steak and butter. That's a no-brainer. Garlic in it. So I would either, if you're going to use raw garlic, you could mince it very, very fine. And you could use it in a marinade if you're going to marinate, say, a flank steak or something like that that needs some marination, needs some acidity to kind of help tenderize it. Use raw garlic for that. And then my tip to anyone grilling it, kind of lightly brush it off so you don't have any big pieces that are going to kind of burn because they're going to get that bitter flavor. And then if you're just going to grill a steak, ribeye, a pan-fried ribeye, or a grilled strip loin, something like that, cook with this garlic here we've got. You can take some of that garlic and just kind of smush it on top. Oh, that'd be nothing better. That'd be so good.
I think I'm going home to fire up the barbecue.
This is my job. I need to inspire you guys with the right stuff, because I was like, now I'm going, oh.
Well, I have a gas-powered barbecue, so I'm quite interested in this. But when you're doing garlic on the barbecue and you put it in, I have a cast iron frying pan that I put on the barbecue because my barbecue's a little elderly. But I use that and I do a bit of garlic and then I put my steak and turn it and then put it on the grill. Is that one of the reasons why it doesn't have that funny burn taste to it, or?
It could be, yeah, because you're kind of mitigating the garlic burning, right? A cast iron grill on a cast iron pan on a grill is fantastic because you can literally put it on there and leave it there. It's just going to get nice and hot. And I think that's a great technique. Are you searing your meat in the pan and then putting it on the grill?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. That's
well, that way I don't have fires. My neighbor thinks I'm a fire person, so.
Right, and that does help mitigate that because you don't have anything dripping down so much. You kind of left that all in the pan, then you can just grill it if you want. But yeah, then you can add your garlic to the grill. And again, if one thing we can take away from what we're doing today, if it's not just the truffle making, it's the technique and how we're cooking and using this garlic. Right?
Well, we've now almost been talking an hour. We've got a few more minutes, and then I'm looking at it going, now that's about how long we've been doing 45 minutes of cooking that, right?
See how long that's taken here. And that's wonderful. It's great. And this could be used for so many different things now. If you want to make a mac and cheese with the roasted garlic, use this. That's your butter and your mac and cheese.
Oh, good.
So
yeah. That would be very, very, very tasty.
It's very tasty, and it's nice and soft, and you get those really nice crunchy caramel notes on the outside as well. So really, really nice.
Okay, now I'm getting a question about what are good vegetables with roasted garlic? Like what could you roast in?
Good roasted vegetables. So let's think about where is garlic predominantly used in cultural cooking? And it could go lots of different places. So an easy go-to for me that I think a lot of people are familiar with is Italian cooking. So think of Italian vegetables, zucchini, eggplant, peppers, those kinds of things. Kind of vegetables that have a more neutral flavor are going to pair really well with the garlic, because the garlic is such a showstopper. It's so forefront and robust in flavor. So a vegetable that is less, you know, very flavorful. So like zucchini, for instance. Zucchini is great, but zucchini loves to have a bit of garlic too. So I would say definitely do that too.
Sounds good. That sounds really good. I'm going home to pick more zucchini, I think.
Like I make a mushroom soup, and my little secret weapon for making a roasted mushroom soup is I do this. I get my butter in the pan, exactly the same. I get my butter in the pan, I get those little butter bits all nice and toasty. That goes in there, and I do this in a big pot to stop the garlic from getting overcooked. Then I add my onions. They take all the heat. Then I might add some potatoes, and then I'm going to add my mushrooms in there. So the potatoes are going to thicken it, and then the mushrooms are going to be that background mushroom soup flavor, but that garlic is going to be. So again, I use the same technique in a lot of different applications.
Oh, that sounds so good. I think I'm getting really interested in this now.
Yeah, that's good.
So, Chef Grant, we are coming to the end of an hour. So can you give us some ideas of what is coming up at the ATCO Blue Flame Kitchen? What's coming up next for you guys? And
lots of exciting things. I'm so proud of everyone who works here and what we're doing. We've really turned this pandemic thing, which is, is so exhausting for people. And I'd like to think that the BFK has really provided people with, we've got online meals, which are fantastic. They're great for after school. If we got people at home that are stuck at home, that have to work from home and they don't want to cook, although maybe you've got time, look at our meal program that's online. We've got lots of wonderful things on there that are absolutely perfect. Cottage pie, or shepherd's pie as we call it, lasagnas. We've got different weekly features. So we've got a team of 8 chefs that work here. And they're all exceptional at what they do. They're wonderful people. They're wonderful, wonderful chefs. And so every week they're on a weekly rotation of different meals. So we can have everything from a Thai curry. Chef Leanne might make up an Asian-inspired noodle dish. Chef Rob just did bratwurst and spätzle, which is we sold out. It's unreal. I did a Moroccan dish. So we got weekly things coming up every week. Speaking to that, week after next is actually our Thanksgiving run. So it's all of our Thanksgiving items for sale as well. They're online right now. You can pre-order. We've got complete meal turkey kits. So everything you need, turkey that you will have to roast yourself. But we've got the stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, my favorite, cranberry sauce. I can't have it without it. We've got lots of different other things going with that as well, pumpkin pie as well. But if you don't want to buy the whole meal kit, which is great, we got a new thing this year, you can buy them all individually. So if you need a liter of gravy, you need a 500 ml of cranberry sauce, you need some veggies, we've got it all for you here, which is fantastic. And that's just for the food part. Now we're going to talk about the other things, which are virtual classes. So we're just starting up our corporate learning classes as well. So it's some different themes for that. And we're also doing weekly rotations of our online virtual classes, which are really, really nice. So all the chefs are participating in that. Hence why we're doing something like this one today as well. So lots of different things going on to be educational and also to help entertain people as well during this different time. I don't want to say difficult, but a different time that we're all used to.
Well, I don't refer to it as difficult. It's been illuminating, to say the least, of human nature, and I'm certainly proud of us.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have to say that having seen your operation and had a backstage visit, if you will,
Yeah.
fascinated by it, and I'm listening about the Thanksgiving dinner, and I think you'll be hearing from me. But
Yeah.
I really want to try a couple of online cooking classes. So it's
Yeah.
been a wonderful hour. This is the way that you can keep on top of what you can do with all these things that are coming from the garden, and best of all, the garlic stuff. Thank you so much, Blue Flame Kitchen, and thank you so much, Chef Grant. We've really enjoyed our hour, and it went by so quickly. And so who knows what more questions we might get.
You know, when we're having fun, time flies. So we had a lot of fun today. So
We certainly did. And I've had a cooking lesson to boot.
and that's half the fun of it as well. So I'd like to thank you for allowing us to host this and for me to participate in it. And of course, all of our guests on the live channel there watching it. And I hope they took something away from it. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact me at grant.perry, that's Perry, P-A-R-R-Y, at atco.com. Be happy to answer questions or send you some recipes as well. So again, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Very well.